again folks, and welcome back to this week's video. And this week I'm not heading out by myself, I'm heading out with a friend. So you may not see him too often on the camera, but assure you he is actually there. So he's been telling me about going to Beccles and Bungay, saying there's some decent charity shops we need to hit up there, and he's going to take me for a tour of some of his local hotspots. So hit the music, let's get game hunting.
Game pickups! Building the game transfer! Rush trips! Not game hunting! Always now!
It'd be quite nice this week to be joined by somebody else. A lot of the time I either do my game hunting with my wife, which of course I fully enjoy, but a lot of times I do it by myself. It is a bit of a lonely job, but you know, someone's going to do it. So my friend come around me today is more of a DVD reseller, so hopefully some of his knowledge is going to rub off on me. So hopefully you guys can get some good tips from this video as well. So if you enjoyed the video, please remember to hit the like button and also subscribe, as I put new game hunting videos out all the time and I want to take you folks along for the ride. Now let's get game hunting. Here we go then, bright and early on a Saturday morning, ready for another day of games hunting out in the wild. And straight away I came across, in this first charity shop, a pretty decent selection of Blu-rays. So, you know, I'm used to seeing a lot of DVDs in these shops, but not so much Blu-rays. So this was quite a nice surprise. And one of the most random ones I think I've seen for a while was this kind of demo disc or kind of musical compilation to kind of show the sound of high definition. It's actually quite interesting. I did look this one up. There's some really good selection of kind of bits on here. I think this is so you can kind of prove how good Dolby surround sound really is. This is one of the other cool things I saw today. It's an Aviation 5. I think it's like a flight stick for like the IBM PC. That kind of gives you an idea of how old this thing actually was. I managed to sniff out one game in the entire store, but sadly it was nothing to write home about, being my French coach for the Nintendo DS. So it's not really the kind of game I'm looking to pick up, but at least I found one game so far. So into the next store, and they had some pops. So I was like, well, actually there's a pretty cool selection here. We got pretty much the whole of the Avengers assembled here, but the pricing on these was pretty high. £10 each. That is pretty expensive. If these had been a couple of quid, I'd have definitely picked them up. But I think this shop was kind of like just outpricing itself for a charity shop. They did have a couple of games, but again, nothing to write home about. Sadly, I couldn't check my list on here, so as you all know, I do use an app to track my games, but the phone signal was pretty bad in here, so I couldn't check it, but I did have to pass on this one. Hiding on the top shelf, nearly out of eye line, was this amazing Jurassic World puzzle, but the artwork on this was really cool, but I'm not a fan of puzzles, and you know, space is at a premium. This thing was very cool, but you know, it's a very large item to have in the games room. There was a couple of pretty decent DVDs in this store, one of which that really stood out was this Power Rangers double pack, which it was quite tempted to pick up, but I think the movie is actually on Amazon Prime, so yeah, go and check that movie out. It's an absolute classic. The next place we visited was a place called Vintage Mischief in Beccles, and this was actually after a tip-off from somebody I work with who said this was definitely somewhere I needed to check out. So, looking on at the outside, it doesn't look like the kind of place I'd be too interested in. It's, you know, it's more one of your kind of classic antique shops. There was a lot of kind of glassware, a lot of vintage stuff, and not really the kind of stuff I was looking at. But, you know, you can't judge a place like this from the outside. If nothing else, it's quite interesting to look around these places. It definitely kind of gave me that kind of American Pickers vibe. Nothing was really priced, and you just had to dig through things. But it was definitely one of those places that kind of gets me intrigued. You know, you never know what you're going to find in this kind of place, but it had the most amazing selection of vintage clothing. We're talking like 80s, 90s, even before that clothing. There was also some really good vintage Levi's jeans. They're always the kind of jeans I prefer to wear, the type that have been worn in and just have a story. But a lot of this stuff was priced quite high, but it was some really decent stuff. But yeah, I had to explore, I had to dig deeper. This place had some secrets and I was going to find them. These Ladybird books might be a bit before my time, but they are always something that kind of amuses me. Like literally here, there is a book on how to swim, like how you could learn to swim using a book. That does not sound like a very good idea. Probably when these were written, or even in this day and age, just not the best idea. But this place had some weird treasures hidden around, such as this old mobile phone. Like, look at the size of this Nokia. I would not call this mobile in any way, shape, or form. It's just not really practical. Also, this is the kind of thing I don't think we should be opening it in 2022, so I put this straight back. If you watched my last live game hunting, you know I picked up a nice little Lego alarm clock. So I kind of thought this one was marked as vintage. I wasn't really sure what it was to begin with. I think it's a torch, but they marked it as vintage. But I think I did manage to find the date on it, which dated it in about the mid-2000s. So I'm not really going to say that's vintage. You know, it's pretty hard to see here. It was a bit overpriced and definitely not vintage, but a cool item nonetheless. As well as video games, I'm also a massive music collector and do have a pretty large selection of vinyl in my collection. And there was some pretty awesome pieces in the shop at some pretty good prices as well. But one of the things that really stood out to me in this store, they had some amazing laser discs. And these are something I keep getting tempted to pick up. But the main reason I don't is the price of laserdisc players is absolutely mad. But these things are just so beautiful. You know, for the iconic movies such as Terminator 2 Judgment Day, this is such a cool way to have them displayed. And there was such a large selection of them, you just never see them. And also they had the best movie of all time, which is of course Jurassic Park. And this thing is just so cool. Like, if you have not seen a Laserdisc before, just imagine having a DVD but with like the space to show off some of the artwork for the film in just such a cool way. You know, these are like gatefold, they have art books, they are just such an awesome way of having a film. I'm really gutted that he's never caught on back in the day. Like, I don't really know a lot about Laserdiscs. I know they're cool, I know I like them, but I don't really know why they failed. I think it was because it was so incredibly expensive. But let me know down in the comments below if you've got a Laserdisc player, if you had one back in the day. I really want to add one, but I just don't know if my pockets will ever be deep enough. If you've never seen a Laserdisc before, which to be honest there is a fairly high chance of that, this is what they essentially look like. They're kind of like a very large CD or DVD with that kind of shiny finish. They are so beautiful, and it nearly detracted me from the fact there was a vintage console behind here. So this was kind of one of those ones from the 80s where you just kind of plug it into your TV and it just has kind of all the very basic games such as Pong rip-offs. These were literally everywhere in the early 80s. They're all a bit kind of shovelware-y, but one of the things that is really cool is when you see these old vintage comics is the advertising on the back. Like, check out this advert here for the Master System. That is some retro amazingness. This next item is kind of cool and vintage in two ways, because firstly it is made by Atari, yes, that Atari, and it is such a zeitgeist item. I think it's kind of like a personal PDA. I can imagine anyone from like the Wolf of Wall Street using one of these, having all their important contact details on it. It's nothing I'd really add into the collection, but a really cool rarity to see in the wild. After vintage Mischief, we were back to the more traditional charity shops, and the first thing I had to pick up was these Guinness socks, as I love me a pint of the black stuff, and they are absolutely fantastic.
The Yellow Album.
When I was checking through the CD selection, I managed to find this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from the film soundtrack CD. This one's actually worth a couple of quid, but for me, the memories alone are worth the price tag. In the next shop, there was a pretty large selection of these kind of Marvel books, comics, whatever you want to call them. They were kind of like the collector ones, and I think these are kind of ones you'd pay like, say, $9.99 a month for, and they eventually add up to a full collection. But, you know, you can see here the person obviously never got through their whole selection. I did look through these, but these aren't really the kind of comics I'm looking to pick up. I prefer kind of the singular issues, just so you can get all the artwork and cool stuff like this. Not really a big fan of these ones, but pretty cool nonetheless. There was also a small basket of video games to flick through in the store. I was tempted to pick up Guitar Hero World Tour, but I did have that one already in collection. Same as Tiger Woods PGA Tour 09. I was like, do I have it? Do I not? I did leave it behind. It turns out I did already have it in the collection, and it's not one for really great trading value, so I'm glad I left that one behind. In the next store, there was something you do not see very often. That is PCs in a charity shop. And it actually has some decent specs. You know, I don't think it's going to be running Crysis, but still pretty cool to see. Also, in the same shop, they had some pretty banging CDs, such as Good Charlotte, Young and the Hopeless. Who remembers rocking the eyeliner? Listen to this. Back in the early 2000s, one absolute classic, and a bit more up to date, but still an absolute classic, was this Papa Roach one. If you watched WWE in the mid-2000s, you'll remember the first song off this like it is yesterday. This is a bit of a throwback, but oh my god, I wanted this FX Vertigo when I was younger. It just looked like Scale Electric, but way cooler. Also tucked up on this next shelf up here was this Avengers Black Widow figure. It took me a while to try and work out if it was kind of vintage or retro, but I decided it's probably more up to date. We may not have had the best luck in Beccles, so we decided to head on to Bungie. And, you know, it looked good straight away. That Hannah Montana game in the window, you know it's going to be a good day if you see Hannah Montana. And as soon as I got into this charity shop, there was an absolute stack of games. Sadly, most of them were PC or kind of shovelware games, but, you know, I'm going to get dug in and check through. Make sure nothing has gone amiss in this selection. Some of these were a bit rough and a bit ropey. There was a couple more games that I wanted to pick up, but some of them were just a little bit too rough. But at least we were finding some games. It had not been great so far, so it was good to finally find a decent amount of games. I was trying to work out whether to pick up Ultimate Band. I was like, does it work with the Rock Band guitars? Does it work with like the Guitar Hero guitars? I did leave it, but I did manage to find this copy of SOCOM 3, which is an absolute classic PS2 game. Another kind of oddity that I did manage to find in this store was this Call of Duty Nuketown mug. You know, it's not really the biggest or best find, but for 25p, I'll have my morning cup of joe in there any day. Just needed a damn good cleaner. That thing was really dirty. On to the next shop, and seriously, this is one of the most overpriced charity shops I think I've ever been to. I did like this display stand though, so I don't know if they're using the profits to like use this nice furniture to display their games, even though this thing was pretty tough to rotate. But yeah, I was just checking through, making sure there's nothing good hiding. I thought that might have been a PS3 game. Sadly, it was a Lego PC game. But yeah, it was a pretty badly laid out store, and also it was very, very expensive, as you'll see in a minute. So I think I've picked up one of like a very, very common Xbox 360 game, Kinect Sports, and then yeah, this Kinect here. This Kinect was £10. That seems like quite a high reach for something for the 360. So I thought, oh well, let's see how much their games are. Kinect Sports for £5. In CX, it's like a 50p game. This was tempting though. This Tomb Raider guide though, it was 15 quid. Don't know if I should have grabbed that one, might regret it later. So shout out to my mate, he actually saw this before I did, not really knowing what it was. And this is of course a Meowth Pokemon McDonald's Happy Meal toy, and one I don't actually have. So definitely picked this up for 50p, and then had to start delving into all of the CDs, DVDs, stuff like that, as you never know where they're going to be hiding games such as this DS game. And what was it going to be? Of course it's Brain Training, because we haven't seen many copies of that recently, have we folks? But it didn't deter me, I got digging back in, and one of the first things I pulled out was this sealed WWF DVD, and some of these are worth decent money, so keep an eye out. This one was sadly not, but some of them can fetch a really good price. So yeah, diving back in, another thing to look out for if you look through CDs is original pressing. So this was the very first pressing of this Donna's CD. You can check CDs like this on Discogs. This one's actually worth a fair couple of quid. A tip for you folks when you're out searching for games is always check your local maps. As we were on the way back to Norwich and realised there was charity shops hiding that we could go to on the way back. So this was in Framlingham on the way back, and the first we found was this Wii Console and Wii Fit. Sadly they were not splitting it, so I just wanted to pick one or two of the games up, but they were selling it as a large bundle. But on the way back we did hit up the city of Norwich, next to where I was dropping my friend off, and I did manage to pick up these amazing Turtles DVDs. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the original Turtles cartoons are anywhere you can watch online, so picking these up was a massive bonus to end the day. This is one thing you kind of learn when you're out game hunting all the time, is you can't win them all. But the main thing is having fun. It was just great being out there with a mate, just going through the charity shops and searching for hidden gold. We may not have struck gold this week, but it's all about endurance and keeping at it. But still got a couple of cool things to add to the collection. So just the one game added this week, and that is SOCOM 3 for the PlayStation 2. Sadly, this one is not complete, which is a bit of a shame, but the SOCOM series is definitely an absolute classic on the PlayStation 2, and one I think Sony should bring back, because that would be amazing online with your friends. Next pickup is just this little Happy Meal Meowth toy, because I just like to have these as little knickknacks on the shelf. It is a bit of a shame that McDonald's have stopped doing the plastic toys, but I guess it's better in the games room than in the ocean. I may not be the biggest fan of Call of Duty, but I can't really resist a Call of Duty mug for just 25p. You know, at the end of the day, we all need a cup to drink a coffee out of in the morning. I may be one of the last people in the world who still listens to CDs, but it's not going to stop me picking them up, as it's just, I'd still find the easiest way to listen to music in my car, as I do have a CD player in my car. So, really good CD pickups this week. We got music from the film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you know, the soundtrack is quite iconic. It is incredibly 90s, but that is why I love this film. Also, the other one we picked up was this Donna's CD. So this one actually sells for a decent price on Discogs because this is the original pressing. So if you get some amazing knowledge of CDs, you can pick up some really good ones to flip, but you have to know what you're looking for. The last one is the Paramore Sessions from Papa Roach, and as I said, if you watch WWE in the mid-2000s, you'll remember To Be Loved being the intro music for WWF Raw. The final pickups of the week, we have these amazing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles DVDs. This is a show which I think needs to be on Netflix or somewhere. It's so hard to watch in this day and age. It's actually surprising. So first up, we have this kind of generic kind of best of, and then we have the best of Michelangelo, the best of Leonardo, and the best of Raphael, which means I do need to find the best of Donatello, so I will be on the hunt for that very much soon. It's just such a nostalgic thing for me. I loved this cartoon when I was younger, and it's just good to put on every so often when you feel a bit down and just give you that nostalgic vibe. There we have it then, folks. That is the thing with me for game hunting. It's not just about picking things up. It's about having fun, getting out there with your friends and your family and just getting your hands dirty and building a game collection. Like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to win every week, but it's the fun part of trying that keeps you going and drives you to keep working hard at that goal. So, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Remember to like and comment, as I really like talking to you folks about the obsession that is game collecting. Subscribe so you're here with me every week, as I'm putting out bonus videos and I don't want you folks to miss them. And as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.